Hey there, Pauper players. I'm back for my replays again. Round 4 this time. Now, this one was quite a bit of a doozy, actually. This was from the Power Challenge here from this past Sunday. And this round is against, I hope I'm not butchering this name, Hrymfaxe. And, oh boy, is it someone else. So we got the wonderful magic of Stompy. And let me tell you, this matchup is a little difficult, and it's even. Stompy is normally a really easy matchup. However, Hrymfaxe is one of like the best players, probably in the format. He, or they rather, they know what they're doing to such an extent that even when I have a really good matchup, playing against them feels extremely white knuckle. And honestly, if I'm being realistic here, I very firmly believe in this particular match, I actually got kind of lucky. And they even comment on it at the very end. They made a comment, saying, just kind of how a couple top decks really just happened to save my ass in these games. It really helps for them, especially since they actually run main deck hate against this deck, which is kind of unusual as far as Stompy goes. So let's just kind of get into it. This hand was definitely keepable, because obviously you have the Well-Wisher, which is the #1 card you are looking for in the Stompy matchup. If you have it, you're golden. Especially, usually, again, Hrymfaxe is the exception, but if but a lot of decks don't run main deck hate, so if you can land a Well-Wisher game 1 and survive off of it for even just one turn, you're golden. The game is yours. So it's really easy. You can go Mystic, turn 1, followed by, turn 2, Well-Wisher, unless you see a forest, then you go Nettle Sentinel, Birchlore Rangers, and play Well-Wisher, most likely. But the hand is good. So, let's just kind of take it away and play it. And like I said, you just play Elvish Mystic and take it away. So, they open with Young Wolf. Okay, so you got the forest, so Nettle Sentinel, Birchlore Rangers, tap them down, play Well-Wisher. And just go for it. And I was hoping, because they were running, for their hate, they were running one of Epic Confrontation and a one of Viridian Longbow. And I was really just like hoping and praying that I wasn't going to see him. And just play the Huntmaster. Obviously, what I did there, too, before, I originally moved to tap down the Forest and then tap down the Elvish Mystic, but if you actually look at it, it's better to do the tap on tap here, because it would actually net you more mana in the long run and enable the play of the Priest of Titania, which otherwise wouldn't have happened. So then you obviously tap Well-Wisher down. That may or may not have been the best play. May have been better to wait and see if they played like Silhana or something like that. And there was their one of Epic Confrontation, which, frankly, that sucked and it hurt. I was feeling that. However, I had the benefit. I probably should have attacked there in hindsight. I could have taken the damage. I could have battled down. Actually, the reason I didn't was because they had the Kirin Ranger, which meant they could just untap at a whim. And that was the whole reason I was holding back, was because of that. This was that Kirin Ranger top deck that they were talking about. I remember, because they mentioned the Kirin Ranger being the top deck that saved my ass. And I remember it from the game that they were talking about the one time, but I forgot what the other one was, and it definitely is showing up here. So I got them down to 2. They can't kill me here. and I'm able to get in there for those last couple points of damage there. And what they realize then is they don't have the Kieran Ranger to untap, and I can go in, and they can only block 3 of my creatures. So that ends the game, and it was definitely very tight. If I didn't hit the Kieran Ranger there, yeah, it would have been much more difficult. May have been able to get there, but not quite as easily for sure. So that was game 1, and like I said, they definitely hit some of their hate, and it definitely made things harder for me. So let's check out game 2. Now, the sideboarding is not really that difficult. Well, wrong button. This is a disadvantage to only having a single monitor. I'm hoping they change that soon. But, yeah. So, I took out a Nettle Sentinel, a Distant Melody, and a Viridian Longbow. Longbow can be good in this matchup, but you're still racing them, and they're going to try and hit you down pretty quick. Especially Hrymfaxe, who, again, knows their deck like probably better than just about anyone in the format. You're definitely going to expect for them to kind of crush you quite a little bit. You know, go in really hard, fast, whatever. Nettle Sentinel is good, but again, you're trying to go quick with your combo. And you can block with Nettle Sentinels, and it's good, but it's not always ideal. You're trying to get your mana down quicker. And Nettle Sentinel helps as like a kind of like an ender and a combo thing. And you cut down a Distant Melody. You may notice whenever I'm playing this, I seem to cut Distant Melodies, and I go for the Melodies and the Huntmasters. This is actually one reason I'm kind of excited for Lead the Stampede, because sometimes Distant Melodies doesn't feel quick enough, or it's too risky sometimes. And against Stompy, where they're trying to kill you quick and kill you fast, it's not always the best option. Going in for 4 may not be most reasonable because you may not be able to hit it in time. So going down to 3 is fine because you can still have plenty enough to combo off with and go off with. But at the same time, it lets you just kind of focus on your actual immediate game plan of stopping your opponent from killing you, and then you can get there. So what I brought in was 2 Luminescent Rains just to keep up on the life gain, just in case they kill Well-Wishers or what have you. This is one of the reasons, like, normally I guess I would bring in, I would have Essence Wardens, but I decided they weren't really appropriate for the league, where you're also not expecting like, burn and all that fun stuff. I also brought in, I believe, 1 Moment's Peace, just as a way to stop any serious attacks, but at the same time, you usually have enough between the Well-Wishers and everything that you don't quite need 2, but 2 helps. So I end up keeping this hand. You have, Forest, Llanowar Elves, good. Then you start, you go in, you have your Well-Wisher active, you have Birchlore Rangers, you have a Longbow if you want to get there, and if you can keep your mana count up, you then have a Huntmaster and a Distant Melody. It's not perfect, but it's decent, and it goes a really long way. So, Llanowar Elves, and you drew perfect with Kieran Ranger, because now you can just go, okay, I'm going to cast Kieran Ranger, and you tap them, play Well-Wisher, and you're golden. Even if they kill the Well-Wisher, you're still probably okay. Now, that was a really interesting play on their part, going Gutshot and then Hunger of Howlpack. I usually don't see that. This was probably a misplay on my part. I probably should have played the Longbow first and gone in. And at that point, I realized they had the game. If I had played the Longbow first and equipped it, and then I would have had, I can tap and untap Kieran Ranger, but then I can deal with their creatures. Like, I could have dealt with that Vault Scourge. I could have dealt with the Young Wolf coming at me. Maybe not this turn, but the next turn I could have dealt with the pumped up Vault Scourge. So there were probably lines that would have been better there that probably could have actually gotten me it a little more. And I think I tried to go in a little too deep and get a little too greedy. And that's definitely one thing you want to be careful of when you're playing elves. It's really, really easy to try and get kind of greedy. But, you know, as they always say, hindsight's 20/20, so let's just move on to Game 3. I don't think I made any changes to my list, but let me check just to make sure. Yeah, sideboard still left it just the same. I thought about bringing in like the Spider Silks and such because they have the Vault Scourge, but I let it be. So let's see what we got. Okay. So I think normally this hand would be okay. I don't remember if I kept this hand. I think I might have thought it was a little slow. It's risky too if you can land the Well-Wisher, but it's so easy for them to just kind of kill it. But at the same time, if it sticks, then you can drop down Timberwatch Elf and just try and go crazy with it, because then you're protecting if they have another confrontation, if they have a gut shot. So to me, this hand looks good. I just can't remember if I tossed it back or kept it. It looked like I kept it. So you went Bursler Rangers first. And they go Vault Scourge. And that's fine, because you've got the Well-Wisher, and you just go for it. You attack the Bursler Rangers because your hand is fine. You don't necessarily need to worry about all of that. And you're getting worried because you have, you know, the same issue that we had happen before. So, but then you have the Timberwatch Elf, and you're good. This is go wide. Go as wide as possible to stop them from killing you. And they went an epic confrontation on the Timberwatch Elf, which was a really interesting line of play. And I was able to stay in there with the Well-Wisher just because they had the Kieran Ranger on the board. If they didn't have the Kieran Ranger, I actually would have like straight up died. And this was my A+ top deck Kieran Ranger. Like I said, I got really lucky here because this enabled me to continue just gaining a ton of life. You know, they're dealing 8 damage to me a turn, but that's fine because then I'm coming right back and dealing, or I'm gaining 10 life a turn and then some. So I was able to manage to really kind of stay in the game a little bit. And unfortunately, this game just ended up pretty much being a back and forth game for a little while here. And I'm allowing myself to block with my creatures and everything because the odds of me hitting another elf, for example, are really high. And when I do that, I end up making another token. So it ends up benefiting me. Because then I'm actually gaining more life in the process. And it just gets to the point where I'm gaining so much life that, you know, anything that they're doing as far as damage to me becomes somewhat negligible. And they have, you know, Riverbow, which can go right at me because of my island, but that's fine because, again, I'm just gaining an absurd amount of life. And at this point, it basically becomes a back and forth of them attacking me and me activating Well-Wisher until I can start just getting there. Viridian Longbow comes down, and I just end up wiping their board, essentially. And they have the vines, and that's fine, because then I still end up, like, killing all of their stuff. And they can regenerate the Riverbow all they want. Unfortunately, that's still gonna end up killing it. And that's pretty much what it boils down to, this whole thing, is I end up just wiping out their board. And because I end up wiping out their board, they're not really able to do much to me. But I will say, while I was actually sitting here playing this game, playing this match, it felt very white knuckle. It felt like the tables could just turn at any second. I think at this point in this match, I felt very confident that I was going to win. It's really kind of hard to come back here. The only way that they really could have gotten there is if they straight up killed my well-wisher. But obviously at this point, I ended up just hitting Distant Melody and just drawing everything. Even when I couldn't like chain off of another Distant Melody, I ended up still getting, I got another Well-Wisher, I've got multiple Kieran Rangers, I have Timberwatch Elf, and at this point it just becomes really hard for them to just beat me. Just because I have such a wide range of creatures. I have a Elvish Vanguard that ends up being a 25-25 Timberwatch Elf with multiple Kieran Rangers, and this was the point where they you know, mentioned the top deck of the Kieran Ranger that won me the game, and just offered the match. So that's pretty much it. Obviously, like I said, your clinch card with the Stompy matchup is absolutely Well-Wisher, but again, any kind of life gain is what is going to get you here. The longer you can stay in with the game with this deck, the better. And so that's my first match against Stompy. This is actually the first of 3. If you check back for round 7 for the quarterfinals in the top 8, you'll actually find me and Hrymfaxe have a nice little rematch. So check that out. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope this helps.